Okay, so I will call this meeting to order. Oh, look at us, right on time, 12 o'clock. And everyone is present, which is wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We have minutes in our packet from our December 7th meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Marge.
Second.
Second is Marie.
And there's one correction.
Okay, let's make it.
Right at the very roll call. The
Okay.
meeting started at 12:15, not 1:15.
Oh, look at that.
Good catch.
Really? Well.
That's not what I typed.
Okay, can you let Lauren know that that needs to be changed? I would normally happily do it, but I'm gonna be,
Right up at the beginning.
Yeah, I was just checking. I think it ended at 1:15. I think maybe the
Right.
person just used the same time instead of.
Yep. Everything else, I didn't find anything else wrong.
great. Anybody else have any questions, comments on the minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Any abstaining, opposed? Okay, they passed unanimously. Alternates, strictly speaking today, David, Dana, you are both, well, Dana's an alternate, you're a pending alternate. Strictly speaking, you don't vote, but I'll vote and sometimes by mistake. It won't be recorded in the minutes. Okay, public communication, citizen participation. I don't think we have anything. We don't have anyone who's online to talk to us. Assuming, no, good. Okay, so we can move right along to our staff report where Leila will update us on all kinds of things.
Yes. So again, the community development position with the town, this primary role is working with the small cities community development block grant program through the state. And I gotta keep reminding myself to, give a little more detail about these programs before I jump into speaking about what we are doing with them. We had a grant from 2019 for CDBG, Mystic River Homes. At our last meeting, I discussed the closeout of that grant. Because we are processing the final payments and closing everything out, and the grant period was coming to an end, we had to request an extension in order to complete the processing of the finances. What I mean is, so the consultant that manages that project for us, he closed out the project with the contractors and everyone. But then he himself also needs to close out his fees and so it's like a couple of layers of.
Is that Andy?
That is Andrew, yes.
So Andy with ECHO, Eastern Connecticut Housing Opportunities, is our consultant. We've heard the name before, but I'll just keep saying it every time.
Yes. And so the closeout of that, that final layer of oversight on the project. And again, I do need to point out that the grant is closing out, not necessarily the work that's happening at Mystic River Homes. So people might see other things going on over there as a part of the larger remodeling or renovation of that development. The grant specifically, this grant is closing out.
So all the work that was funded by this
Yes.
program is done.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
other work that may continue will be funded through other means, and you might see work continued
Correct, got it.
being performed there. And so we are finalizing the last drawdown, which is called the final drawdown. It's a reimbursement to the state for payment. And then, so semi-annual report is done, as the term itself states, twice a year, but another semi-annual report is conducted at completion of the grant. So we submitted a semi-annual report in December. Oh, sorry, not in December, semi-annual report for July 1st to December 31st was submitted in January. And now since this project is closing out, we have to submit another report, which is very similar to what we submitted in January, but this just kind of covers everything that we've done on that project. And so that'll also be happening within the next couple of weeks here. The state received notification from HUD to complete an express closeout on the Mystic River homes. So what that means, so when the town closes out a project with the state Department of Housing, the project needs to be reviewed by HUD. So it could take a year, 2 years after the project has been closed. And then at times there's this new initiative that the Department of Housing has pushed now to work towards being more efficient and kind of more proactive and reviewing these projects before they linger too long out there, because years could go by sometimes, and if they haven't reviewed them, it's hard to find the people who worked in the position, in this project. So now they're asking us to close out, do a complete express closeout for Mystic River homes, and it's higher priority, but we cannot complete that express closeout for the state until we've done everything else. So the semi-annual report, the reimbursement forms, and so everything is happening all at once. So that's where we are with that one.
Susan Cullen,
Yeah.
the staff person before you, used to tell us all the time that these closeouts on the grants with the state and with HUD can take years after everything's all done. It's just a cumbersome
Sure.
process.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I'm reading. COVID-19 PPE stockpile. For that grant too, we are working on a drawdown reimbursement. And as you can see, there's a number 2. The first one was performed early last year, let's say maybe April or March. But this is the second one for that one. And that's just to get reimbursements on expenses incurred from purchases that were made early on for COVID supplies for the stockpile. And that grant also, so the grant period is 2 years, regardless of what work you're doing. The grant period is 2 years. And so if your program is still open and you haven't fully utilized the funds, you have to request an extension in order to get reimbursement. So you can get reimbursement if the grant is closed. So for that one too, we put out a request for an extension because we still have the stockpile and we still have funds available still. A big part of the funds that we need to discuss with the state is use of the funds, because we have what we need for a stockpile. I don't imagine we will need more unless if some major, emergency occurs that we'll need to stock up in supplies and, if another pandemic breaks out or anything of that nature. But if that doesn't happen, how else can we use the funds? Because the state is very strict on what you apply the funds for and how you use the funds. So you can't apply for stockpile and then mid-program decide, oh no, we want to build a house with the remaining, but you cannot do that. We have to be strictly using those funds towards that initiative.
how much funding is left?
So we are currently, as I said, completing the second reimbursement. Between 50 and 60,000 is left. Yeah, that we haven't expended.
And I see that we have more masks because there are masks
Yes,
here
yeah,
at the senior
those-
center. Do we have more tests still available?
We haven't
tests?
ordered more tests.
We haven't ordered.
We haven't ordered more tests yet.
So that's one thing we could do with the funds.
We could do that, yes.
Okay.
And then that too goes again with what the need is. So,
Right.
if, there's a greater need is, develops, then we would need to order more tests. If the masks run out, we need to order, not before they run out, but we would maintain that stockpile, yes.
I don't know other people's thoughts.
I just wondered what the other possibilities are with the funds. If you don't do them, if you don't need the tests and you have enough masks, then what are you allowed to do with the rest of the funds?
And that's the question. Yeah.
That's what they're
Yes,
asking the
yeah.
state.
And I say this jokingly, but my request to our team was, let's get reimbursed first. And then talk about, how else. I just don't want to complicate those discussions. I want to keep them
Sure.
separate, that
Okay.
this was done, can we get reimbursed for this? And then how else can we, and so, but yes, that's the very question we're trying to work towards. We've looked at, through, the, CARES Act, which is kind of the umbrella initiative that this grant is performing through. They've developed research and a document titled Best Practices. So what other towns have done with their funds throughout the nation. And so I've looked at some of that, and there are some great initiatives that some towns have done. The only issue now is, then back to your question, is what of those things can we do? And I'll be honest, a lot of them don't marry well with what we currently have applied for. So if we speak DOH, it'll be a totally different language, but it's worth a discussion at least. And if they say no, they say no, and then we'll explore how else we can utilize those funds that meet that requirement that we set up.
I don't know what other people think, but I'll just throw out there. It would be reasonable in my mind to order more tests and make tests available free, because most insurances had been paying for free tests. I think Medicare had, but they're stopping that.
Yeah.
And so there aren't going to be free tests available to people. If we have the money and we can buy the tests and make them available free to the public. And it was great when they were at the senior center.
Mhm.
So if we can't do anything else with the money, that would seem reasonable to
Exactly, because
me.
if you go to Walmart, it's still $20 a package.
And I think you might have said this, the availability of test kits for a while after that initial kind of, I don't want to call it a rush, but, concern with COVID, there was a lot of availability. It was everywhere. And I think that kind of affected our distribution, because, not a lot of people were taking them. And then so we kind of slowed down on purchasing anymore until we kind of saw what the need was. But as you're saying that, I'll be honest, I didn't know at that point what the insurance
Yeah,
companies.
insurances are stopping.
I just thought, okay,
April, I believe. Some of them have already stopped. Yeah. In January.
There's also the problem, you don't want to stockpile a lot because then they all expire.
yeah,
If you can have a rolling
Yeah.
distribution of them. Yeah.
that's true. That was, I think, another concern, because the initial expiration date on some of the early test kits that we bought was 3 months.
Yeah.
And then the FDA extended that to 6 months, I believe, and then 12 months. And then so, it's very quick turnover.
Okay, can you give an example of something you saw that another community was doing that you liked the idea?
Something another community was doing, I believe it's in Chicago. They finance a campaign towards an issue in the community.
COVID related issue or not necessarily?
I think they found, I don't want to say they found a way to make it, to justify it, but I think it was an issue in the community,
Okay.
and an issue that could be linked to COVID. I don't think they directly said that, but it met that, that checklist of, the types of
Mhm.
expenses one could use for that grant. And the campaign they worked on was towards alcohol abuse, alcohol and drug abuse, and
Okay.
I can see where that would fit in.
yeah, it
So
wasn't,
many people were stuck at home. What are you gonna do?
so it
Your
was,
entertainment, drugs and alcohol.
but I think my takeaway from it too was it was an issue in the community that they kind of identified and
Right.
that they were working on. And the campaign was not necessarily just to finance, but to promote and work towards collaborations with other organizations in the community. So it wasn't necessarily just, here's the money, don't sell alcohol. It wasn't that. It was more educational in nature, and how we can,
Kind of along the same lines, I was wondering, is there any way we could offer a contribution like to the food pantry in Groton? I know that they have a hard time with sustainability, and during certain times of the year, people are always giving, and like holidays, but what about all year round? I know they're trying. Is there any way we could use some of the funds? Even a small grant, I think, would be.
So that would be another question that you could ask Cut in the conversation. Is that COVID related enough? The food, people
Because
suffering.
so many people still are not working.
That's right.
And I think I'm glad you bring all these ideas coming up, because they were things that this document that's it's available online now. I want to say more than 50 pages of different cases and things that people are doing. But that was another one that stood out to me that I did a little bit of further research into. And another community supported something like a community meals initiative, and how they structured their financing of that was not necessarily, and I think the grant itself does speak to how you can use the funds. You cannot improve a program's budget, but you can support and help where it's lacking. So with the community meals initiative that I saw on there, they help sponsor the delivery portion of the community meals program. So instead of you going there, something like that, yes, yeah. And so it was not necessarily direct funds towards the existing program, but kind of expanding a little bit to add that component to it. So where I think they stated their, senior citizens and other disabilities and things as part reason to why they want to support the initiative.
So let's leave it there for today, because obviously you have to have a conversation with HUD. If that link to that study or is available, maybe you could send that link out to us for anyone who wants to look at that more. And if anyone then has an idea, you can always email Layla, say, oh, I saw this and the thing, ask about that. Okay, that would move us to housing rehab.
So housing rehab, we've contacted people on the wait list. There's about 3 or 4 names that are currently pending. There was one that was on the wait list but moved out of town and already sold the home, so that person was removed from the wait list. The other 3 I tried contacting, sent a new application form just for them to see what the documents are again, because some of these were these applications were from 2000 or 2001, so a while back, so. But every year we need, when we file an application, say you file an application December 2022, but the funds are available in 2023, we need 2023 financial information, not 2023, even if it's like a couple of days in between, that. And so those people haven't got back to me yet. I contacted them November, December. I was talking to my supervisor about that too, as to what qualifies as a, sorry?
There's nothing recent?
What do you mean recent documents?
Recent applications.
Oh, there's nothing that came in, no, that's come in, no. But the ones that were on the wait list, again, as I was saying, I don't know what justifies as a enough amount of time to, wait for them to get the documents to me. There are 2 applications that I sent out from people that I spoke to recently. Those haven't come in yet, so they are.
Okay, well, there could be new ones.
Yes, at least two for sure. But I don't have them in my hands or.
Is there any way to get this information out to the general public, say, down at the senior center?
Yes.
55, whatever you want to call it.
We spoke with Mary Jo at the senior center, 555, sorry, and Human Services Department. We'll work on distribution. This is what I'm titling it, but updating the information on the housing rehab program, creating a one-page type of, early information type of document instead of just sending out. I think we talked about this last time, full packed application information, because that tends to be a lot of it, reading and documents is needed. So at least getting a one page out there so that people can know, or at least have some information, enough information to make that determination of whether they are interested in applying or they want more information. And then also publishing an ad is another thing that's on our list of distribution in the newspaper, town website. We're also talking about radio shows. So I don't know if you guys have any recommendations of radio shows that you've heard that have done well with publicizing some of these type of programs. But we have a distribution plan we are working on right now, and Mary Jo was also on our list, and they're helping us kind of present the information in a manner that would
How about the assessor's office? Somebody can go into her and say, look, can you come look at my house? It's not worth what you're saying, because I need new windows, I need new roof, I need new whatever. She can hand her the paper and say, here, if you need help.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah, no, that's a good idea, yeah. I'm looking at the screen now because I'm hoping that captures.
Yeah, I think the assessor's office and the library where they have a big
As
bulletin
well
board,
as-
just a one-page thing
Right.
saying, do you need help replacing your roof, your for whatever the things are that are eligible? And, please call this number for more information. We have funds available to help you if you are below a certain income with a simple one-page flyer.
Yes,
You
the
know?
library, was also on our list. As you're speaking, I'm trying to think of who everyone was on our list, but there's a couple of departments in the town that we thought, and also organizations, whether it be churches or other venues that people tend to find information through. So again, the flyer we're looking at is also something that could be posted on social media if you want to, whether it be Facebook or whatever, or if you want to send it to someone through text or something like that, something that is possible to do that with too. So.
Can, when the flyer is ready is being worked on, can you send a copy of it out to the committee?
Yes,
We
yeah, I
give
can,
you
yeah,
feedback,
no, that'd
just
be great,
saying,
yes, yeah,
We don't think this is clear, or we think this could be simpler, or you
yes,
send it out to us.
yeah, most definitely,
Feedback. Great. And how much money do you have an idea how much we have in the housing rehab fund at the moment? It's available?
240,
We have that much? Wow, okay.
and I say 240 because there's other digits after that, but
240,000.
yes.
Yes.
I mean, yes, but the reason why I don't necessarily give a specific amount is because we are processing checks from our consultant, test that with A&E services,
Huh?
for work that he's doing. So he does. So I do the preliminary review. He does the final review of the application and does the inspections, and so he bills us for that
Sure,
type of work.
sure.
So,
You just wanted some,
When the work needs to be done, the town will contract somebody to do the work on these homes.
so the housing rehab program, those funds are through the Department of Housing again, and so they have a strict set of guidelines as to how we can source contractors for these type of projects.
So those particular contractors should also get the flyer sent to them so that they're aware that we have money. They may know people that need help,
Yeah, I see
but
what you're
can't
saying.
help because they haven't applied.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes.
so for those of you who are still trying to understand this housing rehab program, the town in 2013 was awarded 400,000. It's one of those CDBG grants. And in the year when we get the housing rehab funds, we can't get apply for the other grant that we use for the senior housing. So the town was awarded 400,000, the town contributed 150. So there was over 500,000 in the fund. This, the people can get up to, what is it now, 35,000?
30,000, the
30,000.
5,000 is added if there's lead or asbestos work that needs to be done in the house.
And it's a loan to the people, but they don't have to pay it back except when they sell, if they sell their house.
Yes, no interest, differential.
So we have over 200,000 in the fund. In order to ever apply again to CDBG for more money, we actually have to be below 25,000 in the fund balance,
Yes.
according to what I've learned over the years here. And sometimes we've been pretty low in the fund balance. So right now we have more in that fund.
Yeah, so people have sold their homes and made payments. And a lot of times you'll find there'll be years where there is no funds available.
Right.
And then you'll find 1 year, 4 or 5 people sold their homes and just like that. And then so the financing comes very quickly, but as soon as the funds are there, they use very quickly. Then, and so even with advertising then too, it kind of goes up and down with the availability of funds.
And Susan used to make the point that because this fund is under CDBG, the guidelines are cumbersome and difficult. It's not an easy program to work with. Well, and that'll come up later under something else, but okay, well, that's good to know that we have the money and we just now have to figure out how to make people more aware of it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Anybody? Questions, comments? Oh, okay. Moving to the Neighborhood Assistance Act.
The Neighborhood Assistance Act is for nonprofit organizations in the community. They apply for tax credits up to 150,000 that businesses can contribute towards and get their tax break in their taxes for that year. The applications are completed by the nonprofit organizations, and that application is due to the town March 31st. And then the town council needs to approve those, not necessarily approve, but review and make a decision on those applications before July 1st, because that's when the applications are due to the State Department of Revenue Services. With this one too, we found that we have been applying. So by we, I mean nonprofits have been applying, but the important part of this program is nonprofits have to contact businesses that pay taxes and meet the criteria for the taxes that qualify you for this program in order for business to make contributions to their organization. So just because the state approves your application for up to 150,000 doesn't mean you get the money. You have to now source the businesses in order for them to acquire the tax credits.
So if a nonprofit wants to put in a new air conditioning on their roof, they can contact like Eversource. Eversource, I'm sure, is probably one and say, will you contribute for tax credits?
Oh, okay, I thought you meant put on the roof.
No, no,
Oh,
no, no.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, just
Yes.
Eversource would be somebody that, because you're putting in an electrical unit, they may say, okay, yes, that's fine, we'll do that for you. Okay,
But the important thing that you're saying is that the nonprofit has to contact.
right.
Yeah. Just because you finish the application through the town and the application goes through the Department of Revenue Services, it doesn't mean you get the money.
You're right,
Yeah.
right.
You approve for up to whatever the money.
So this isn't just for nonprofits, it's for businesses to apply for as well. It's only for nonprofits.
Yes.
Okay.
Nonprofits get the funding, the businesses
Are contributing.
contribute in lieu of taxes, kind of. It's instead of paying taxes to the state, they donate to this
Oh.
fund,
Okay.
and that counts kind of as if for part of their taxes that they would
Got
otherwise
it.
pay. That's what these,
Does get confusing at times.
So there's, again, another layer to that is there's two types of projects, if you want to call them. There's those that are 100% one-to-one dollar value, and then there's those that are at 60%. So some of those initiatives or projects would be energy efficiency, as you kind of in your example. There are other projects that nonprofits need work on that might not necessarily meet the energy efficiency criteria, but would fall into the 60% to the dollar value.
is the energy efficiency 100%? Is that why it's 100%?
So, and with that too, you can now tell that the challenge with financing, you know, with supporting an initiative, if you are only getting 60% break instead of 100 if you are supporting it. So as organizations are applying, they need to be aware of those differences and how to kind of present their projects to businesses as they communicate with them. But a big part of it, and I put in my notes here, is through researching best practices again. And I keep saying best practices because this is not new. There are other towns that are doing this too, and if there's towns that are doing it better, I've contacted some of them in the state. Bridgeport is one town that I contacted and just asked them, like, how are you able to perform so well in this program? And through speaking with them too, they said, just got to make sure that the nonprofits know that it doesn't stop when you submit the application. There's more work to be done. And a lot of times that work can be done outside of your application. You know, you can be communicating with businesses now and, you know, get that going so that by the time the businesses, their window is between September 15th and October, early October, to submit their paperwork. So, but you can speak to them now, the businesses now, so that when that time comes, it's not, you know.
Is there a list of businesses?
There is no list of businesses. So what we've done, that's kind of back way of getting to that list, is every year the Department of Revenue Services publishes a report on business contributions to the towns, and they list so-and-so business contributed this amount of money. So what we've done, we've gone through that list and just removed the businesses, and then I tried to identify what type of tax they fall under. And then the next step with that list is identifying which are local being town area, not town, Groton area, if you understand what I'm saying, city and town, you know. And then those that are within the state. Another thing I learned from talking to other towns is that the businesses only have to be paying taxes in the state. So they don't have to be local only, you know what I mean? So
okay.
if there's a business that's in, I don't know, New Haven that pays taxes that you can, you know, communicate with, yes. Or that you might be out of state, but somehow have a program that pays taxes in the state, yeah, those do.
So I would think besides the utilities that you mentioned, Marge, it would be banks, I think probably.
Insurance
Banks,
is one of them.
insurance.
Healthcare. So on that list of business contributions, I've seen organizations like Pfizer. I didn't see Pfizer on that list. Not sure. Again, that's the portion of the best practices that we haven't got yet. What type of businesses do participate in this program and why? Why do some not? You know, I mean, that type of thing, understanding. And then this push to promote this program might not necessarily be as beneficial in this round, but we're trying to at least get it to a point to at least next year we're in a position to where the local nonprofits are, you know, well informed and have everything they need to do complete the application.
Yeah, that's new information. I did not know the nonprofits had to approach the businesses. I
Yeah.
thought the businesses are somehow just.
I
kind of
thought the
make-
fund was sitting there waiting for somebody, you know, the business pays into it.
Yeah.
And somebody applies and they're okay, and okay, here's your money,
Yeah.
but that's not it.
Because there's applications we received, and I think that's how we got to this application we received where nonprofits were approved for thousands and thousands of dollars, but didn't receive anything. And then within that same year, there are applications who receive funding. And, you know, that's the difference between the two. You know, it's not that you are unlucky per se. It's more so, you know. And it's been 4 years that we've done that. We have been participating in the program. We've been applying to the program, not necessarily completing that full process of, you know, making sure that we receive the funding. And then again, with best practices, I'm still in communication with other towns.
That's great.
And I think another thing I'm learning there, to your point too, is that the town itself cannot do much in the participation process of this program. We are mainly there to ensure that the nonprofit truly are community driven, not driven, but a community initiative, and that they meet what we believe as a town, that, you know, they do a service to our community. But past that, we are restricted in what we can do, especially with, I think another recommendation that I received was that we cannot promote one business against another, you know, and so that we are listing recommendations shouldn't be one, it should be 3 or 4, you know, 5, you know, and the nonprofits picks who they, you know, yeah, and we can't have favoritism, say this organization we like and we want to make sure they know. We have to have everything open to everyone.
How are the nonprofits made aware of this?
So we currently have the state publishes their own information on this program, but we also keep an internal list of what we call interested group. And so every year we send out, so as soon as the state lets us know to start promoting the program, we send out updated information on, they call it NAA, Neighborhood Assistance Act. We send out information on it. We receive the notice, I believe, early March, like 2 or 3 days into March or so that week, saying that we can start publishing. And so we send out every year an informational packet. It's
Send that to all nonprofits as well.
interested groups, sorry. And so at the next part towards your question is, we currently don't have a listing of nonprofits that are in the town. So what we've done is I've actually gone through the IRS and filtered through their database to find organizations that list an address in the town. Whether that organization would qualify for this funding, I don't know that yet.
Right.
And so that's a separate list again there that we're going through and saying, okay, we have the organization name. Right now, that list is about close to 100. The question now is, does this organization still exist? Does it have real property, or is it something online that, you know, this program doesn't necessarily pertain to it? So that's another phase, to go through that list and kind of comb through it and see the organizations that truly would participate in this program, and then contact information for those organizations is another column, if you want to say, that we need to add. But that list is close to 100 when I looked at it. Then again, it's an early list. It's just rough data that I got from the
I think it's
IRS.
great you're doing that. Having been on the board of like, what was MASH, now Always Home. I mean, the nonprofits are looking for funding. Most of them are aware of the Neighborhood Assistance Act.
Yeah.
It's on their radar screen. So they've probably reached out to the town and said, and so you probably have them on that list.
Yeah, those that have reached out, we have
I would
that.
imagine, but yes, new ones, sure. Okay,
But I was interesting. I was surprised, sorry, to see that the number of nonprofits in the area being close to 100. That's a lot. I'm assuming a lot of those probably don't exist anymore, but we'll still go through it and see who qualify for that. But if you have organizations that you know of that would need this type of information, I can have our team send out the packet to you so that you can forward that to anyone. The application again is due March 31st this year.
great. Okay, so if you know of a nonprofit you want them to send info to, give them the name. All right, anything else on that one? Okay, unfinished business. I'm not aware that we have, I mean, all of this in some sense was going over unfinished business. Anything anybody had on their mind as unfinished business?
Okay. I don't know if it's unfinished or new business, but I see that I am a secretary. And Natalie had asked me if I could or would, and I had to decline it.
Yeah.
So Lauren said I could still decline, only because I can't do justice to it.
Yeah.
I'm not savvy enough technology wise, and my time right now is committed.
Sure.
So,
And if I had been at the meeting, I would
I
have told them
know,
that you had
you told me
declined,
you weren't
but-
there either, so I'm sure it was by default because.
There's only three of us here.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, I'm willing to do anything I can to help, but mainly it's the technology. I just don't have access to it to do the minutes or whatever. I mean, I can record whatever, but
Well, so that would be a thing. If you're willing to just jot things down during the meeting, which I do and a bunch of us do, and give those notes, Marge or I are happy to type up the minutes.
okay.
So we can, if you.
I can do that until you find somebody else.
Okay.
And you better look.
You know. I will.
Yeah.
Okay, and then new business is an update on the ARPA funds.
Oh, okay. So with ARPA, and I don't know if you were hinting towards that earlier, but we are trying to build a local housing rehab and down payment assistance program. When I say local is not necessarily avoiding CDBG requirements, but incorporating efforts that we want to meet at a local level that, you know, might be unique to the town. And when I say that, I know it's general, but looking at how we can best help households through housing rehab in ways that might not necessarily meet CDBG requirements, but, you know, that would work at a local
And
level.
the council did approve
Yes.
some funds for housing rehab.
Yes.
How much was
I
that?
believe it was 125.
125. And was there some separate funds for the down payment or first?
Not
funds?
separate. The application, with our application, we applied for separate funding, but that was the allocation. That was the allocation that was given to us as in
Okay, so
total. So a portion of that,
125
I'll
for
get you
housing rehab. and
exact
down payment.
numbers. I have the page. I don't know. I think maybe someone it wasn't the packet yet. But yeah, so it's the question now is to how we divide it, and then also through the service agreement that the ARPA allocations coordinator is processing for all the programs that applied. That will give us that language as to how we can use the funds and you know what. But we're also drafting a document for the structure of the program, and I can send you a copy of that for the community review.
That would be great,
And we can discuss it at our next meeting.
great.
But a big part of it, and what I like about it is now we can say, okay, this is what we can do with the CDBG housing rehab program. What else would we want to do that would help households and still meet that housing rehab program criteria? But this now, you know, it's almost like a shopping list as to
Okay, so we get 125,000 ARPA. Was the town going to also donate? I think it was 100,000. I'm wrong?
I don't remember that, Mark.
finish that thought when you donate to.
To this new fund.
I
know
don't think
what
the
it's
town, I don't think the town was doing that. I'm not sure if you're remembering, the town was, when we thought we were gonna be doing the CDBG application for the Groton Housing Authority for Grasso Gardens this year, which ended up.
They were gonna
last
be
year.
donating.
Mhm.
With the town
Matching.
was gonna put in 100,000 matching funds for that.
Oh, okay. Okay,
But that
Got confused on that one.
CDBG application in the end didn't happen, just so everybody knows that. There were just too many hurdles for the housing authority to cross, as I understand.
Within that year. yes.
Within that year.
So the housing authority is still pushing that initiative, but for funding through the CDBG for 2022, you know, the year was coming to an end. And, you know,
Right. that was gonna be another question I was gonna ask you, but I'll come to that. So I'm not aware
Okay,
that the
I,
town's
I
putting.
think I got the two confused.
So that number for the 100,000 you referred to went back into the housing rehab program. That's why we're saying that 200 and something. That allocation was gonna be taken from that,
That's correct.
and, you know.
That's
actually,
correct.
yeah, but it
That's-
now went back into that fund, yes.
Speaking about the housing authority in last night's council meeting, they had a nice presentation as to what they're looking for Grassl Gardens, as well as any other areas of town, closed schools type of thing where they can put in
Pocket
little,
communities.
little pocket communities for low income. And Grassl Gardens are going to expand to 2 bedrooms. So some low income with children will also be there. Once they're done, they're putting in like 50 more units. So if you watched the meeting from last night, they gave a nice presentation.
It really was, and you can do it online. You all know you can go to YouTube, watch the meetings, you fast forward. to the- to
you
the
don't have to go.
house. And their presentation was probably what, 20 minutes?
It wasn't all that long, but it was very informative.
Very good. Be worth watching.
And so, the
That's okay.
service agreement that we're working through with the ARPA coordinator will be out, I want to say before June. And at that point, people could apply for that housing rehab program. And the language with that program too, will make sure it meets whatever American Rescue Plan instructions are, but also, you know, what we define as a town as to how we want that program to perform. So it's not just free for all type, it's going to be, you know, trying to meet the goals here.
The ARPA coordinator, is that Kevin
Yes,
Fitzgerald?
that's
Is
him,
that his name? Okay. So you're working with Kevin on sort of how the funding can be used, making sure it fits within ARPA.
Yes.
And then hopefully we have some latitude locally to decide, well, these are the people we want to help. These are the kinds of projects we want to help people do on their homes.
And that's the document we are drafting right now.
Right.
It's the structure of the program. And
That's what you call the service agreement. Is
no,
that-
that's just how to use the funds.
Oh,
That one
okay.
is like how to use how can you use the money?
Okay,
But now the next part of which you are referring to now is the program itself. You know,
Okay.
the operations, the financing between homeowner and the town, the contractor you're talking about. You know, like that language.
okay.
And you're looking basically the same way. It's no interest, long-term loan when they leave their home.
So that's the language. I'm not gonna say yes or no, but that's the language that will
That's
be
the-
included.
what
Yeah,
you're
it's to say,
kind of
okay,
looking at.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, what we want to define the program to be.
Right.
Yes.
So it might be better to make it a question mark, like, so right now they're talking about, will it be?
Yeah, well, not that just,
no.
I'll bring it through this committee and then
and-
you guys can also like
Uh-huh.
review it and then give your recommendations. for-
Right, but that's the kind of thing for everyone to go home and think about. We have this pot of money to help people. How would you like to see the town structure it? Should it be a no interest loan? They don't have to pay it back till they sell the home. What kinds of projects on people's houses, lower income people, what would we like to be able to help them with more flexibility
Yeah.
than what we have through the CDBG
Would
housing
the
rehab?
flexibility also be in income level?
That's another thing that can be, you know, discussed as to, you know,
Okay.
how. But that's the important, right? The structure of the program. That's an important document to have so that, you know, you don't treat every case, you know, as it comes in, but we make sure that, you know, we have a structure in place and a set of goals that we want to achieve with that program. And we can meet this.
So you'll send us at some point a document when you have it
Yes, yeah.
that would address some
part
of
of- a
these
big
things,
part
and
of
then
it-
we can talk
yeah.
about it and weigh in.
Yes, a big part of it is the service agreement, right? What ARPA says how we can use the money, and then that language is used to inform the program structure, and then, that will be, so there'll be things that says, okay, this has to be in the program.
Mhm.
And then if you give another idea, for example, oh, this can be the program, or this cannot, that type of thing, and so you'll then be able to better have that conversation when that agreement comes out. But I will say, what I like about what we have locally, the housing rehab program, is it's another way to kind of see what other towns are doing that we could do here locally. The benefits and the cons also is another aspect that I don't know if you've noticed, I'm into learning from others, best practice. If people are doing it, why should I recreate it if it's already being done something, and so I'll use an example, emergency repair. I don't think we currently have language in our CDBG program that speaks to that.
Emergency preparedness.
Repair,
Repair.
housing
emergency
rehab,
repair.
repair. And,
Oh, emergency repair. Uh-huh.
so I'm playing with that language right now in an early draft. It's not formal at all. I'm just kind of adding words to what I think should be in something of that nature. It hasn't gone through any approval, so it might not even be in the final document, but it's just things that I think, oh, this would be interesting, or I'll put question marks around some of these things. And again, emergency repair, what defines an emergency repair is something that we need to look into. And, how do you define an emergency versus, oh, I just want to fix my patio or whatever you want to call,
Through their roof or something.
it's something, I don't know, but that need is there, because there might be a case, I don't know, someone drives through your house. I don't know if that ever happened, but you know what I mean? And
Happening with frequency.
and like, what do you do then? And and so
And the down payment assistance is another really
Component
interesting
to
and new thing for us, because that's not something Groton has had.
to my knowledge, no.
I don't think so.
I've gone back to the 80s in reading the things that we've done in the town, but I don't think we've had it. And with that one too, we are working again with other towns, just kind of learning. New London is a town that I'm speaking to, trying to be in contact with Stonington and Norwich, just to kind of see how their programs have been going, and what to do and what not to do in that type of program. Also, a big component of the down payment assistance program is there's an educational requirement. So in order to get a down payment assistance, these programs tend to have an educational component to it. So the homeowner has to attend this home ownership educational training in order to qualify, or as one of the qualification criteria. So traditionally, that type of education is only done. So organizations that host these trainings are in Hartford and New Haven and that region. So that's my concern with, I don't know if anyone has the time to drive only there, and it's 8 hours, and that too. And so it's like, it's an added problem to the homeowner, which is something I don't want to be if we can do something better. And we found that in New London, there's an organization, homelessness center. It's a long word, sorry, I forgot the name. But they're working on getting their accreditation in order to host the down payment home ownership assistance educational component. And so if they get it, it's not too far. It's better than driving to Hartford.
Yeah.
Driving to New London is much closer, at least. So I will work with them and make sure that we can send people over to there for that program. But another component to the down payment assistance is, in order for it to be successful, we need to be in communication. I won't say communication with the banks, but banks need to be aware of our program. That also to help our applicants. So if people say, "Oh, I'm getting time, applying for down payment assistance through the town of Groton," so that they know about the program instead of.
Well, I think realtors would have to know that too, right?
Yes, yeah, yes.
Because I know a lot of realtors are aware of that Connecticut
Housing finance.
first time
Okay.
home buyers thing, you know,
Right, Connecticut has a program,
right, right.
but I'm not sure how well known. You think
Well, yeah,
realtors
and that's
are
what I'm
aware?
saying. So I mean, if this thing comes to fruition, then realtors should know about it too.
So
You know,
yeah,
so if somebody comes to them, they can say, hey, you might want to look into this.
it's not a standalone program.
right.
It relies on a lot of other.
Yeah, no, understood, but, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what you're getting to is that.
right, I'm just saying,
Yes,
at least they can get the
entities that-
information out,
Yes,
you know?
Yeah.
And then let the person or family go and at least look into it. You know, and if they qualify, fine. If they don't, well, nothing lost.
But there it also raises how to coordinate with
Right.
that state program.
Exactly.
Can someone
yes.
get some money from the state and some money locally?
Yep.
What determines whether they get the money locally or from the state?
Right,
I don't know, because I don't know anything about the state program.
Right.
That's a new thing to me. Okay,
So all of that would need to be defined.
Yes,
in a
exactly.
document.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yes.
you've got a lot on your plate. Good luck with that.
No, the good part about it is that we are trying to do things.
Sure, of course.
Absolutely.
It's not just busy workings at all. As long as it helps in a
Yeah.
way, it's worth at least a meeting with different towns
Right.
and I don't think it's a secret, the town will tell you, we've done this works, this doesn't work, and then it's up to us to decide, what we want this program to look like, yes.
Great. My only other question, anything else on that? Anybody has questions? So my only other question is the CDBG, the program for either the Housing Authority or Mystic River Homes.
Mhm.
You have reason to believe the town, the Housing Authority are going to be applying for a CDBG grant in 23?
I am not sure of that yet.
Not sure, okay.
Yes, the housing, I do know the Housing Authority is trying to do work this year,
Yes,
but I'm not sure of where the financing is coming from yet
okay,
and the town's involvement in those type of programs. Because there's financing that cannot come through the town that the Housing Authority qualifies for. And so
Right.
those type of funding
right.
would go directly to,
The only reason I ask is that, and it may already be too late for this year, but if the Housing Authority is doing their financing from a whole bunch of other sources, they don't need the CDBG grant. I would like us at some point to go back to Mystic River Homes. I'm pretty sure there's still more that they would like to do.
The elevator.
I just hate to see us lose out on the opportunity to apply for another round of CDBG. I realize that puts another thing on your
oh,
plate,
no,
but, but so if you could have a conversation with the Housing Authority,
Mhm.
kind of see, and then a conversation with Mystic River Homes. If we're not going to do it with the Housing Authority.
I want to say, there is a webinar that the Department of Housing is hosting. They host it every year before an application round that's coming up now, I believe, late March.
The
That
webinar.
I've registered
Okay.
for, and that is kind of discussing what this year's application looks like and what's the requirements, what's changed in the application requirement, when the deadline is to apply and all of that. Yes. I did register for that, I believe, last week.
Great.
That's what I was thinking about, yes.
Okay, great, good. So just kind of keep that in your minds that we want to keep tracking that CDBG money. That if it's not going to get used at Grasso Garden, then we probably want to see if we can help Mystic River Homes do the next step of what they need to do, because that's the only funding available that I know to help them, so.
And I think an important note there with the CDBG again is that you can only have so many grants open at a time. And so those grants that I talked about earlier that we are closing, it's very important that we get those out so that, that opens up the
That's
door.
true.
For others. So, that's the push, that's the pressure for me right now is moving out of the way. so that,
Absolutely. I'm just sharing for those of you who are trying to still learn, make sense of all this stuff. This is something I wrote up for myself. Meant to have it at the last meeting. I had it already for the ghost meeting that I.
Thank you.
Please feel free to take a look at this, see if it's helpful, see if there's things you'd add. I'd like to have a document like this available to give new members when they come on the committee, or just somebody asks, what the heck is this committee do?
Thank you
So
very
this
much.
is, it's helpful to me. It's something I've just kind of put together from the years I've been on this committee. So help me make it a better document, please. Anything else for today? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Marge, motion to adjourn.
Second
1
it.
o'clock. Okay. Adjourn, 1 o'clock. Seconded by Russ and Meredith. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much. And we meet again in 3 months.